Hello there. Welcome to CineMunn podcast. It's been a little bit since we've done a show, so I figured, why not tonight? It's Wednesday night, San Diego. It's a little warm, so might as well do something to beat the heat. Yes, it is almost 9 o'clock. Oh, it's after 9. I take that back. I just wanted to touch on a couple little subjects here and just share my thoughts. It's just me again tonight. I know it's kind of weird, me doing a show by myself. Thank God I have multiple personalities. That will help along. I don't feel like more than one person. And there's a text message. So we're going to turn that off. Firstly, just wanted to touch on that I did recently get to see the Magnificent Seven remake, directed by Antoine Fuqua, with Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, Vincent D'Onofrio, Halle Bennett, and Peter Sarsgaard. I love a good Western, and to me this was a good Western. I didn't really necessarily grow up on Western films, and Western-themed films from the 50s and 60s. I did my first real experience with one that I remember is Tombstone in 91 with Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell. And to me that has always been like the quintessential Western, at least to me. So I've loved those films. I enjoyed the remake of True Grit that the Coen brothers did. I enjoyed 3:10 to Yuma with Christian Bale and Russell Crowe, as well as the original one, and with Glenn Ford. And so getting to see this modern take on the Seven Samurai, and thus a remake of Magnificent Seven from the 60s with Yul Brynner and, excuse me, was Steve McQueen? I believe it. No. I can't remember my names right now. I know I had James Coburn, I had Charles Bronson, but it's not a film I was overly familiar with. I'd heard of it. Obviously, I'd heard the Alan Bernstein score, and everyone's familiar with that theme, so I was at least aware of it, but I've never actually seen the film all the way through. So seeing this remake was special for two reasons. One, it's Denzel Washington, it's Chris Pratt, it's Ethan Hawke, again with Denzel, kind of reuniting from Training Day, which was great. And it was just so beautifully done. I mean, the story is it's a very simple story. Small town is getting harassed by a rich man trying to take the land, and lady, in her own right, seeking justice for the murder of her husband, goes out and finds a bounty hunter who assembles a team of ragtags to help defend this town. I mean, that's the base premise of the story, even of the original film from the 60s and Seven Samurai. After that, you can kind of do whatever you want, and they did whatever they wanted with this film, and it was really good. It was really gripping. The score was good. The costumes were good. One thing I like about modern westerns, especially the ones nowadays, is they don't look clean. Like if you've watched The Alamo with John Wayne, or even the original version of True Grit, or High Noon, or Shane. Shane is a western I really like. All the cowboys look really clean and, kind of. If you've seen Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks' satire of the westerns, with Cleavon Little playing sheriff, he's very kind of clean and kind of one look and almost looks fashionable. And that's what a lot of those films to me kind of did, was that the cowboy looked very fashionable and iconic, which it is an icon. It's an American icon, it's the cowboy. And these kind of modern takes on those films, like True Grit from 2010, like 3:10 to Yuma, like Magnificent Seven from this year, they've really kind of tried to, I guess, dirty it up a little, in the sense of, we want it to look as more real. These people are out in the sun, they're going to look sun-scorched, they're going to look dirty, they're going to look sweaty, they're going to look maybe even a little dehydrated, slightly malnourished, they're going to look overworked and tired and worn and world-weary, and they do that. And that's what I like about it. That's one of the things I really like. The gunfights were cool, the sound editing was good, the score I really liked. There are little here and there nods to the Yul Brynner Magnificent Seven. If you know the film well enough, you will see them. There is one little nod to it, especially at the end with the score, where they kind of bring back Ellen Bernstein's score. This was, I believe, the last film score completed by James Horner before he passed away back in June. He had finished the film score for this movie before his untimely death. So I think it is his last one, and what a score it was. It was so good, and he will be missed. The second reason it was special to me is because I got to see it with my dad. Now, every so often, I have random days off during the week. It's just how my job is. And so I'll go to a movie. And one of the special things to me is going to see a movie with my dad. He knows that I do this. He knows about my love of film. Both my parents do, and they've been as supportive as can be in the fact that, I have no profit off this. I do this purely for the love of it. And so whenever a new movie comes out, my dad likes to see my reactions to it, what I think of it, and he always says to me, if there's a movie you want to see, let me know and we'll go see it, especially if you think it's going to appeal to me. And obviously a Western, I think, is going to appeal to him. He and I have gone to see Suicide Squad, we've gone to see, Star Trek, a lot of films I think would fall under his taste. I've taken to see, and this is one of them. And it's always special to me just to have those kind of moments with him. And I do that with my mom every so often too. She and I will go. But with her, I like to go see scary movies because she gets really involved. And it makes me laugh because she screams and I scream and then I start laughing and we'll be the only people in the theater screaming and then laughing. And then it makes other people laugh because we are laughing. And that just, it's those memories, it's those moments that, that will stay with you as time passes on. So, again, that's one of the reasons that seeing this movie was a little more special to me, is just having those moments. And I love watching trailers with my dad because, I'll look at it, I'll analyze it with him, I'll talk with him over it, and he likes to do stuff called commentary days, which is basically if this is a movie we really like, we'll wait for it to be towards the end of its run in the theater, and we'll go see it. And then if it's an empty theater or near empty, I will essentially give him a live commentary. Like if you've listened to our Jaws commentary show, or our recent Harry Potter show, where we watch the movie with you and we kind of talk, tell stories, tidbits, personal stories from the set. That's what I do with him in the theater. And I'm hoping to kind of, maybe even sometime down the line, put a little group together and do that with this. Bring a computer, record a live commentary in theater. I don't know how we're going to do that because sound in there is a bitch, but, I'll figure something. I'll find a way. Life finds a way. Thank you. So, that's one thing. Okay, Magnificent Seven, is it worth seeing? Yes, absolutely. Go see it. It's a lot of fun. There are a few character deaths that are really meaningful and good, and I thought it was well written, and they all got little motivations. If you pay attention to the dialogue, they really kind of tell you their backstories of the characters, at least they, touch on them, I think, in slight ways on some, and in deeper ways on others. And I thought that was really nice that they did that. So again, pay attention to dialogue. I mean, a lot of people talk about films where, they see an action film, especially something like this, as, has no depth, the characters are two-dimensional, and there's not much to them. That means you're not paying attention to dialogue. You're not really listening to what is being said. And that's part of it. I mean, with a lot of film, you want it to be kind of show, don't tell. But in certain scenes, you need the tell and not the show. And so you need to listen. Listen to what is being said. Because that will help you understand the story. I think that was a big problem with Batman Superman for people, was they weren't listening to the dialogue. They were too in their heads about what was right and what was wrong in the film, and I think that was one of the clarifications that they got with the extended cut was, the film was put into an order that made more sense, but also, you can actually, what I do sometimes with movies is I put on the subtitles, and that helps as well. So listening to the dialogue, hearing it, is what will help do that. Another subject I wanted to touch on was about 2 weeks ago. Actually, it's been exactly 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, I took a trip up to Warner Brothers Studios. Now, I used to live in LA. About 11 years ago, I lived right in Hollywood, right behind the Grauman's Chinese Theater. I had a little apartment. I was going to a theater academy, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. I went to school there for a year. I was that guy. I was a theater kid in high school, and took a shot, went to LA, went to school, and it was a good time. It was a good experience. I worked for the Disney Theater up there. I also worked on the school library, which actually that library used to be Charlie Chaplin's house. Historical fact, a little bit of trivia, there you go. Right there off La Brea and Orange Avenue. Oh, not Orange, sorry. La Brea and DeLongpre. So if you know where the old Jim Henson Muppet Studio is, right there on La Brea, it's right next to it. So there you go. It used to be the old Charlie Chaplin studio, is where the Jim Henson studio is there, with the big old Kermit the Frog statue on top of the building. So I went up there. I got to go to Warner Brothers up in Burbank. I stopped in my old neighborhood really quick, and then I went up just another couple miles to Burbank. I have a friend of mine who works at Warner Brothers. I'm not going to give you their name or their job just to protect their interests. But needless to say, what a great day. I met them for lunch, and we got to tour the studios. They took me on a kind of private tour under their badge name and such around the back lot. So I got to walk around, see some of the sound stages, see some of them, they're doing setups and takedowns on all the sound stages. On the kind of big doors on the wall, there's a plaque, a big kind of brass plaque with the stage number and there's a section that says TV shows for what TV shows were filmed there, and movies for what movies were filmed there. So I saw some stages where they filmed like Batman and Robin, I know, unfortunate, Batman Forever, where they filmed bits and pieces of Big Bang Theory, where they filmed Mike and Molly, where they filmed Friends. I got to go see some of those pieces there, and it was really neat. It's a studio I've never been to. Again, I live in LA, but I always went to Universal. I was a big Universal kid because of Jurassic Park, and I know Jurassic Park was made by Universal Studios, so that meant a lot to me. But now going to Warner Brothers, I am also a big DC fan. I'm a big Batman fan. I've been a Batman fan since I was 4 years old, so 26 years, Bat fan. So getting to go there and see, kind of where, the studios that put Batman together, that were not Fox doing the 66 TV show with Adam West, and to see where they did the big movies was special to me. And so walking around there, I was giddy and I was excited, and it was so fun. And they have a big old museum where it talks about the history of the studio and the actual Warner Brothers and their Warner sister Dot. If you get that, that's awesome. And shows you, here's the process. Here's what it's like. Just a brief little overview of like scripting, of casting, of costuming, of set design, of set decoration, of building, models to scale, of sound design, of editing. And it was really cool. Here's the thing, a blue screen. I got to sit on a bat pod, which was really cool. I got to do a forced perspective for The Hobbit because, The Hobbit was done by Warner Brothers and MGM as a shared rights. So they had a little thing there where you got to sit at a table and feel how they did the forced perspective of Gandalf and Bilbo or Frodo sitting together in one shot, where it is actually Ian McKellen and Elijah Wood together, and that makes them look two different sizes. And I got to see how they did that. And obviously I knew about that from watching the DVDs and Blu-rays and how they talk about doing it, but to actually get to feel that and do that myself was just really cool. And then my friend took me into kind of the area where it's like all awards and like historical pieces. So one thing they had in that room, in a glass case, was the microphone to the jazz singer, which, if you know the jazz singer, was one of the first, if not the first, talkie. So it's the first movie to utilize sound with the film. So you got to hear music and dialogue all at the same time. So it wasn't just, a silent film with orchestra. It was silent. It was a full movie, black and white, with the dialogue on the film, and the microphone that they used in the film for the singer, it was the microphone. I was just sitting there just going, wow. I was just so in awe. I mean, this thing is like almost 100 years old, this microphone, and it was just so cool to just look at it. And obviously I couldn't touch it, but to just look at it and think about the history and how long that has been around, and maybe the people who have come to see that, more talented people than I ever am, or ever will be, have seen that and wondered upon it just the way I did. So there's a bit of common ground. And as I'm looking around at all the other items, like they have the gun from Unforgiven, they have the costume from Superman, they had the crucifix from The Exorcist. My friend kind of says, hey, over here, and there's a gentleman standing there holding an Oscar. He's wearing white gloves, and, I walk up to him, he's looking at it, and he said, would you like to hold it? And first he gives me a little thing, he says, it's real, you gotta hold it like this, on the legs, and support the base. This is an Oscar for Warner Brothers from 1949 for Best Animated Short. I can't remember the name of the film, but if you want to look that up, feel free. And, he said, if you want to hold it. And I said, absolutely. And my friend offered to take a picture for me, which they did. It was wonderful. I have that picture. Yeah. Getting to hold that was something I have thought of since I was 8 years old. And at 7, 8 years old, my mom reminded me of this recently too. I said I wanted to be a director because I was a big Steven Spielberg fan, because of Jurassic Park, because of Raiders of the Lost Ark, because of E.T., because of Schindler's List. Yeah, I watched Schindler's List when I was 7 years old. What the hell? So getting to hold that and feel those 8.5 pounds and that gold in my hand, it was heavier than I even thought it would be. I think part of the weight was not just the weight of the statue itself, but of all my dreams and all my hopes and all my prospects. Everything that spurred me as a little boy into loving film, into going right here, right now, recording this show, was all in that moment. And it was, I put it on my Instagram, and I said it was a moment that was very humbling and breathtaking and heartwarming and sad and overwhelming all at once, and it was exciting and everything all at once. And it was everything I could do to not just stand there and cry holding it. And it's one of those things that in my life I'll probably never ever forget. And that alone was worth the 6 hours I spent in traffic going up and back to LA. Just those 30 seconds holding that little statue, that was worth it. It's one of those things I may never get to do again. I will never experience that for the first time again. And so it's a memory I hope I never lose. I hope that when I do finally come to my end, as my pistons in my head fire their last, and as I'm starting to fade away, that's one of those memories that pops in there again, to say, I remember when I was 30 years old and I held an Oscar. And everything that was good in my life, and every dream I had, and every hope I had, was with me in that moment. And it was complete joy and heartbreak all at once. It's like falling in love. It's joy and heartbreak all at once. It was so wonderful. Then she took me over to the DC Museum, which, coming off the heels of Suicide Squad, was a wonder for me. If you've listened to our show, I was maybe the only one who really enjoyed Batman v Superman. And so going in there, they had obviously the costumes and some of the props from the films, and being a big Batman fan I am, I just spent a good amount of time there just gazing at Ben Affleck's Batsuit and his grapple gun and batarangs and all that stuff. And they had the spear that he forged to fight Superman, and they had Superman's costume with the cape, and they had Clark Kent's civilian clothes and his reporter badge. And in the front, as soon as you walk through the doors, there's several pedestals, and in each pedestal is a comic book in a glass case, and above those, just right behind them is a big banner of a character. And one is Green Lantern, one is Flash, one is Batman, one is Wonder Woman, one is Teen Titans, one is Superman. And in each of those cases is an original comic book that, aside from Teen Titans, I think predates the 1950s. So in there, I got to see the first issue of Wonder Woman from like 1940. Well, she has had her 1941, I believe. I think is the date. I could be wrong. It might be older. And there was the first issue of Superman. Superman number, not just in Action Comics, but Superman #1. And that was so amazing to see. And as obviously they're not gonna let you touch them, but just to go up to them and just gaze upon them and just think of, wow, not only the money that's worth, but what do the ads look like? Like, if I could open that book myself and look at it, what are the ads I would see inside it? What is this, the story? What's the dialogue like? How does the print still look? How does the ink and the color look still? I mean, it's one of those things, like, I can only wonder. And maybe, God willing, one day I may get to know for myself. And just walking through the museum, it was all, obviously the whole display was for Suicide Squad and Batman Superman. And again, as a fan of both of those films, that was great to look at. It was a wonder to behold, and I loved it. And it was all little things I enjoyed about those movies kind of just came back to me. One amazing aspect of the trip was, as we were walking through the studio, through the lot between all the sound stages, we walked by one, and my friend mentioned Over here is where they filmed Mike and Molly, and I think they had filmed that show, The Ranch, on Netflix with Ashton Kutcher, Danny Masterson, and Sam Elliott. And they said, I think they had just finished filming that because the banner's down now, so I think they're done maybe for like season 2, I guess. I watched the first season. It was funny. And right after they mentioned that, the soundstage door opens on the side, little side door, down little stairs, and two people are, I think, waiting at the bottom of the stairs, and the door opens, the person walks out. Slender man, kind of older, wearing a cowboy hat, big green jacket. I don't know, maybe it's cold in there, and that's why, because it was warm outside, I'll tell you what. And this gentleman has a kind of gray and white mustache. And we're walking, there's about 6 of us, just people they work with, and myself. So I really don't know anyone there aside from my friend. So, slender man, wearing a big green jacket, cowboy hat, gray mustache, and lo and behold, it's Sam Elliott. Now, Sam Elliott is one of the quintessential cowboy types. Like, he's got that look of a rancher, and he's got that kind of deep, gruff voice. That's also kind of soft. Like, if you watch The Ranch on Netflix, if you've seen Tombstone, Lonesome Dove, Mask, Big Lebowski, you know Sam Elliott. You've seen him before. He was in Hulk. He was in We Were Soldiers. He's one of those great icon cowboy actors. And we didn't approach him, obviously. I'm not that person when it comes to celebrities and meeting them. I'm not the person to run up and be like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I'm not that person. I respect the art, the craft, and the person a little too much. And to me, they are still just people. Like, I've never been one to just freak out in front of someone. I've met a few celebrities in my life. I've met Jack Black. I've met Tim Allen. I have met, excuse me, I met Jim Caviezel at my church. And that was maybe one of the only times I was ever starstruck. I met Dan Fogler, who you'll see in November's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I met Dan Fogler. He was a very nice man. I met him this last year at Comic-Con. And while I didn't get to meet Sam Elliott, just seeing him, just being within his presence, within, a 50-yard, within 50 feet, not even 50 yards, like 50 feet of that man was just awe-inspiring. It was like, oh my god, I loved your character in Tombstone. This is stuff I wanted to say, and obviously I didn't, but it popped into my head as like, if I was a douche, I would go run up to him and say that. But I'm not that guy, and that's another great memory I'll have from that day, is getting to see Sam Elliott as one of these great icons of Western films. So kind of coming back around to Magnificent Seven in, talking about Westerns. That is mostly our show for tonight. Again, it's just little stuff. Just want to touch on just little tidbits from my trip up to Warner Brothers and going to see Magnificent Seven. It's a film worth seeing. If you do get to see it, awesome. Leave your comments below in the comment section. Let us know what you think. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What you liked, what you didn't like, this and that. Chris Pratt does kind of steal the show on that one. But even so does Vincent D'Onofrio as Big Jack Horn. He's a great character. We will be getting back to our Harry Potter show. I just talked to our friend Nicole. She has said that, she's not out, but she's just not right now in a state where she can continue the podcast. So we will be getting back to that as soon as we can. And when we do, we will let you know. I look forward to it. I can't wait to do some more of those. With most, if not all, CineMunn podcasts, we are watching a movie tonight. Honestly, completely unplanned. I just had the inclination, the desire to watch Batman Returns. So tonight I'm watching Batman Returns from 1992, starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and Michelle Pfeiffer, directed by Tim Burton. This actually was my first kind of foray into Batman. Like, this is the first Batman film I remember, so this was my Batman. Like, people say, Christian Bale's the best Batman. And you're probably right. To me right now, Ben Affleck is the best Batman, in most ways. Not always, but in most ways. But, to be fair, your Batman is the one you were first introduced to. The one that you first met the character with. So for me, my Batman will always be Michael Keaton, and it will always be from this film. Because then right after this film, with the popularity of the previous film with Keaton and Nicholson, and then this film, we got Batman the Animated Series on Fox from Bruce Timm, and that was kind of taken right off of this film as far as design and kind of darkness and tone. And even as far as score-wise, as far as the music goes, it was kind of taken even from this. So that's what we were watching tonight. It's Batman Returns. I do hope to also, once we finish the Harry Potter shows, I would love to start a comic book commentary podcast, wherein we watch comic book films, and not just like the popular ones, not just the Marvel movies, and not just the current DC ones, but like these older DC, even the bad Batman films, even like the Dawn of Superman. And I want to find stuff that you forget, like Dread, like Dylan Dog, Dead of Night, like Constantine, R.I.P.D., which these are comic book films that people forget about. Blade. I love to do Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. I will probably even be willing to do the Amazing Spider-Man series, despite the fact that I did not care for those. And, that's my opinion. So maybe you like them. If you did, great, good for you. I really didn't. And, films like that, The Punisher. Both, the 2004 and the 2008, which I thought the 2008 was a better film, honestly. So we will hopefully be getting to do things like that, hopefully sooner rather than later. Again, as we work our way through these podcasts, we will always update you on what we're doing with the show. If you have suggestions, if you have thoughts or ideas, what would you like to hear from us? Please let us know in the comment sections. If you do like these videos, please subscribe to the site. Let us know. Let your friends know, because I love doing this. And if I know you're out there and you enjoy it too, you enjoy hearing our thoughts, our talk on these things, I want to hear from you. I want to know why you like it, or what about it appeals to you. What do you relate to? What don't you relate to? How can we make this show more for you, the quote-unquote fans of film? We are film fans, first and foremost. That's why we do this. So, again, leave your comments in the comments section. Like this video, subscribe to our page, share with your friends, please. Find us on Facebook, CineMunn Podcast. Again, here we are on YouTube. If you can find us also on Instagram, @CineMunn, or on Twitter as well, @CineMunn. This has been a CineMunn Podcast with Vince Munn. Have a great night. We'll see you at the movies.